Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got the Beat, the podcast devoted to teen entertainment from the 80s and beyond. I'm your host Michael, and Mindy's on the other side.
You try to say that faster and faster just to try to force yourself through it, right?
I think so, plus I had a lot of caffeine.
Ooh, caffeine!
I told somebody yesterday at work...
I ate a big slice of tiramisu cake.
Woo!
Does that count? Will that hit me somewhere?
Yeah.
In the realm of caffeine?
Are you good?
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm asking.
Oh.
Well, I just finished eating it before I called you, so it could still kick in at some point
Yeah.
and maybe make me a little crazy.
I was a slug at work yesterday, and I was drinking some coffee or whatever, and I said, every gulp's like a breath of fresh air, like just like a blast of oxygen. It just,
Yeah.
I bought
it is the air I need to breathe.
I bought dates that were stuffed with coffee grounds and covered in dark chocolate, and they're so good.
Oh my gosh, I must find out more about
Yeah,
that later.
I'm not paid by this company whatsoever, but it's just like this kid, like he's 23 or 24, and he started his own little business. He hand makes every single one of them and ships them. He even writes me a letter as a thank you for my purchase. They're called hot dates, because originally started off being stuffed with like ground up chili pepper, and then he introduced the coffee ones last year. So yeah, so hot dates, I love them.
Okay.
All right,
so you buy them online?
Yeah, it was like an ad I saw on Facebook or something, but he has a website.
I'll look it up later. That sounds interesting. Okay.
I love those weirdo little unique, not weirdo, but like the little unique independent businesses that are trying to survive.
Oh yeah. I try really hard to support small businesses, especially like in my own town, you know.
Yeah. So the films we're going to be discussing today, I want to say that My Bodyguard kind of set the trend for bullies in teen films. I feel like I never saw that before this movie. Can you think of one where there was bullies picking on a nerdy kid?
I don't really know, because I think that is about as far back of my teen movie awareness.
Well, I mean, teen movies, there were a few teen movies here and there. I mean, of course, in the 60s, there was the beach movies, but they were never about bullies. And they weren't heartfelt. They were just, like, silly, cheap fun. In the 70s, we had more nostalgia bait, like with American Graffiti and stuff like that, and just beach movies. But I feel like this is one of the very first. Mind you, there is a lot of heart with, obviously, the first Chris Makepeace movie, Meatballs. Buried in all that silliness with Bill Murray, whatever, he actually really connects with his character, whatever. And I think there's a lot of heart buried in all the goofiness. But My Bodyguard really feels like this is 1980, things are going to change, we're going in this path. I mean, I think it took a little while because we're still drowning in that beach Porky's kind of thing that's going to come. But if you look at a lot of the teen movies, especially in the 90s, they're either influenced by John Hughes, or I feel like they're influenced by this film. And, obviously the Stephen King movies, there's a big thing going on there. Stephen King's working some shit out from being bullied as a kid, too. But, and this is done obviously in a much more sensitive matter, but it's no less terrifying. I actually got some triggering shit going on in the beginning of this movie when he's running around trying to get away from the bullies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't get bullied as bad by any means, but I started having a small level anxiety attack from it, and just remembering some of the shit that I went through, especially freshman year of high school. Yeah. But I think what I like most about this movie is that it's like a minor Rocky, but it's also so beautiful in, like, especially like the little scenes that were there together going on their adventures, and the music, of course, helps a lot. And just, it's a lot more complicated than you would think when you hear the concept. He hired a bigger kid to be his bodyguard. And you think it's going to be like this big cathartic, like, fight stuff. And it does get there, but it's not as obvious as you think. Like, did you expect, like, the showdowns to go differently?
I mean, I think that most of the things didn't happen the way I expected them to, so.
Yeah, and the explanation of what happens with Adam Baldwin's character,
excruciating.
Yeah, but what I expected was that obvious Oscar bait. No, give me a monologue with this huge dramatic pull, and he's kind of like a dead inside matter of fact about the whole thing. And I thought that was really interesting too. He's just like, just go home. He was not crying and he's not torn apart like visually, but he's just like, I am a dead end kid. Just move on with your life. Go, just go to your peaceful life or whatever without me, because I am going to suffer the rest of my days.
And he wants to suffer, too.
And the reveal, of course, of what really happened to his brother is another, like, oh my god, this now everything really... I mean, it was bad before, but it was really bad then.
Yeah.
Adam Baldwin's first performance, and I think it's a pretty damn good one, considering he really didn't have anything before this. I don't know if he was like a high school actor or what, or he took acting lessons, but I think he's pretty spot on.
I mean, to have a story with so much depth, I mean, there's a lot more going on than just the basic quote-unquote teen movie.
Yeah.
There's a ton going on here for them to work through. I mean, is there moments that are kind of cheesy? Yeah. Is there moments where you're like, oh, wow, that guy has never acted again, and he will never act after this either? Like, there's some really bad acting in there. There's a lot of stuff. It's a movie from 1980, like, take it with a grain of salt. Like, try not to be too picky about it, but there's a lot of emotional depth there too.
I think, and maybe you're referring to the kid with the red hair with an extremely deep voice for a 12-year-old.
It's just some of the kids who delivered especially the first couple scenes. You're just like, I don't know. It just seems super, super, super awkward. And I'm like, and then a guy delivers a line and you never see him again. You're like, okay, that just happened.
I think it's funny as how Joan Cusack, even back then, maybe her first performance, she's already Joan Cusack that you know and love.
She's always been who she is.
Yeah, it's just, but most actors, they take a little while to find their voice, and it's just like, nope, there you go.
So I assume that this movie then had to have been filmed in Chicago. Was it set in Chicago?
It was set in Cincinnati, but I swear to you,
right.
When I first started watching the movie, I thought it was in Chicago, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, did they change this? And I didn't notice it, or they didn't think people would notice this, or I don't know what happened. I could have swore like the first 10 minutes was set in Chicago.
Yeah, but I think that the reality is that regardless of where it was set, that's where it was filmed. It had to have been.
Yeah. And both are dealing with loss.
That's where the Cusack family, lived in the greater Chicago area, and that's where they all got their stars. I mean, she's like, 14 in this movie, so gotta be her first movie.
I mean, I didn't look it up, but yeah, it's gotta be close. And it's Matt Dillon's, I think, second or third movie. But God, he's got the sleaze down. I feel like this is what he did a lot, is just play sleazy guys for his whole career.
Matt Dillon, is that what you said?
Yeah.
But I guess he's got the sleazy, creepy thing figured out, but physically, what an unlikely bully.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, most of my bullies weren't big. There's a couple that were big, but most of my bullies were just guys who were fucking cocky and knew how to get into your goddamn skin because they're like teenage sociopaths.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think a few of them had grown up or whatever over the years, and they realized that this wasn't the way. But some people, it's just in their nature, and you can see. I feel like there's no remorse. There would never be a learning period with Matt Dillon's character.
Yeah, he's just like wah wah wah, and then he'll start all over again.
I'm reminded now of a situation that happened my freshman year where this kid, when no teacher was looking, I was in the computer room of, there's a section of the library where there was the computers. He slammed me up against the wall and said he was going to kick my ass after school. And I was walking home with a friend, and I had seen him, and then he didn't come over and do anything. And I had told my friend what had happened, and he was much bigger than me. And he went over and threatened him and said, meet me in a half an hour over at Crestview when school was out or whatever. I was in high school at this point. And so we went to Crestview, whatever, waiting, and to this day, I should have been tougher and just taken fought myself instead of having a friend do it for me. I didn't pay him, obviously, and I didn't ask him to do it. All I did was tell him the story, and he took it upon himself to challenge the kid to a fight. And the kid who was bullying me hired a bigger kid.
Oh God, really?
He didn't even show up for the fight. He stayed at home and he hired another kid to come over and beat the crap out of my friend. And if I could go back now, I would have told the hired gun, the rich kid's bodyguard or whatever, that you know what, this is all my thing or whatever. I'll fight you. And he probably wouldn't have, because he wasn't hired to fight me or whatever. And I was so much smaller. I mean, I was tiny freshman year. I think I was smaller than Chris Makepeace. I might have been around the size of that redhead kid. So it's funny how much of this movie really resonates with me.
Yeah, maybe too much. That sounds kind of stressful.
Yeah. And the fact that he hires a goddamn adult. He doesn't hire like a high school kid.
I know.
That guy was like 35 or 40 or something. That dude's fucked up because he would not let it go. That's the most frustrating scene. He never wanted to fight. That's the funniest thing, is everybody was so afraid of his character for the longest time. You know, making up all these stories about how he threw somebody off a cliff or he shot a teacher, stuff like that. And he didn't want to be involved in any of it. He was a pacifist. And just, it's heartbreaking watching that bully beat the shit out of him and destroy his motorcycle that he spent so much time on.
Yeah, just because he did not want to play the game, the stupid, moronic, pointless game.
Yeah. And I do feel like the showdown is earned because both of them have to learn how to, you know, stand up for themselves.
Yeah. They both needed to have a moment of clarity.
Has Ruth Gordon ever played someone who wasn't fucking hilarious?
Well, you know, I only know one version of Ruth Gordon, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I've never seen her most famous movie.
Yeah. She did before she did, you know, this and Harold and Maude. I don't know.
Yeah, I watched. There's a movie with her and George Segal called Where's Papa, which is fucking hilarious and dark and demented, and she's just the same. So I just want to know if she ever just played like a waitress or something before that, instead of just like this. I mean, she's got so much energy for what was she, like 80 at this point? I mean, good lord.
I don't know. It was, you know, it wasn't entirely pointless, the stuff with his family, although it wasn't as important as maybe they could have, you know, they could have worked with it more, I think, because sometimes it just sort of felt like it was just thrown in there to have a little levity.
Yeah.
But, I mean, whatever she was doing just to feel alive or something, I don't know, or just to have fun with people, I'm not sure. She always, at least those are the kinds of characters she played, that she just kind of liked to mess with people and goof around. And when he said, you know, she's an old lady, but she acts like a little kid and just like, you know, trying to hold on to that youth or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm looking here, and I didn't know this. She was a critically acclaimed Broadway star and a writer of movies. She had 3 Academy Awards for Best Screenplay back in the 50s.
The only thing I had read was that this movie introduced her to a whole new, you know, age group of people. So I figured she had a different, you know, type of career before, but not one that I was aware of. But that's a big leap.
Yeah, I had no idea. And there's a big gap, so she must have retired for a while from acting, because she started off like in the 40s in some movies and plays or whatever, and then, you know, maybe she was a mom. I don't know. But she's a really interesting actress. And I also like Martin Mull. He doesn't have a whole lot to do, but he's just kind of like an interesting character. Not a guy you would expect to be the dad of a teenager, you know, especially one that's bullied, because he's usually kind of like the wise ass, the smart ass guy who's too cool for the room.
Yeah. I thought it was really weird that he seemed totally normal until he had that one real, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge moment with, like, the stewardess.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was like, what is this about? This is so weird. And then
go ahead.
the guy who works for him, who was, you know, sleazy from moment one, I kept saying to myself, God, that guy's so familiar. What the heck do I know him from? And I had to, like, go look it up, and I was like, oh, he's that creepy-ass theater teacher on Square Peg.
Yep, that was bugging me, too. The whole time I go, I know that dude from something. I know him from something. I had to look it up. I was like, nope. Square Pegs.
Yep, and I'm like, yep, that's the perfect exact level of skis that I was remembering.
To me, he feels like the kind of guy who was, well, can we get Edward Herrmann? No. Who's further down the list?
Yeah, who's cheaper and slightly less handsome?
Who's the Dollar General version of Edward Herrmann? Anything else you want to say about this before we go on?
Oh, Edward Herrmann. I thought it was really funny and unexpected that, like, 30-second scene with George Wendt.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's before. I think 3 years before Cheers, so it's kind of, it's interesting.
No, I know. But part of the reason why it's so funny is because literally we just started watching Cheers.
Oh, okay.
Like, we watch it every night. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, it's just... You know, when you just you watch something you haven't seen for a long time, and you don't remember all the people who had little bit parts and stuff, or the first time you watched it originally, you didn't have even had a clue who this person was, and now they're famous, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know who you were then. Just that kind of thing. I
bet you this was shot in Chicago and meant to be in Cincinnati, and maybe I just saw something that gave away that it was Chicago, because I forgot he was a Chicago actor at this time, too. Not a lot of people know this, but George Wendt was a dead serious actor, and he was one of David Mamet's guys.
Really?
Yeah, and then years after Cheers, if you look through his filmography... he did a few more, him and Stuart Gordon worked together a lot too, and Stuart Gordon was known for doing David Mamet plays on stage, and he did some villain roles in like the late 90s, early 2000s after the whole Cheers thing kind of faded away.
Oh shoot, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. That was a long pause.
I had a technical difficulty.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
No, you're good.
I was trying to look up something, and then I accidentally started playing a video, and I was like, oh shit, playing volume. So there might be weird sounds.
No, you're fine. It was only like I was flapping my jaw like always.
Well, cool.
Okay. So, The Mighty. I, for some reason, I thought this was a big fucking hit. And it wasn't. It barely got... I did. I don't know why I thought The Mighty... Because I guess... This sounds silly, but I think I got it confused with Simon Birch. And even Simon Birch wasn't that big of a hit. It did a lot better than this movie. But for some reason, I got the two confused. They came out within like a month of each other, and they kind of have a little bit of similar feeling.
Yeah.
I think they made like 25 million.
Maybe part of it is because I watched both of them a shit ton.
That could be. I feel like I know The Mighty way better than Simon Birch, though. I felt that one was way too sappy. Like, just too obvious Oscar bait. You know what I mean?
Simon Birch?
Yeah, am I wrong?
Well, the reality is that it's based on a really good book, but it's rather chopped up. They changed a lot of things, I think, to turn it into something that might be Oscar bait, yeah.
Okay.
The book, though, is very, very different and very moving. There's, yes, similar things, but it's got a lot more depth to it in the book that makes it, I think, less cheesy. And that's interesting, too, because this is also based on a book, you know, I I read a lot of books, and I read the book of this way before, well, not way before, but definitely before the movie came out, and I was pretty obsessed, and I mean, frankly, still rate it pretty high up there and all-time greatest books.
Yeah. Is it way different? Is the movie any different? Like notably different? Like the way that Simon Birch is?
It's been a long time since I read the book, so I couldn't say for sure. Yes, there has to be changes. Most notably, like it says in the notes, it says in the trivia that the author wrote the original screenplay for the movie, and they rejected it because it was too similar to the book.
What?
Which is confusing.
We want to adapt something, but not really.
So I don't know what to say to that. It says he wrote the screenplay, but the screenplay was scrapped because it was too much like the book. So
well,
clearly,
it's fucking Miramax.
There were things that were changed, but I couldn't tell you exactly because it's been so long since I read the book now.
Yeah, it's well, okay, so it's produced by Scholastic, but purchased by Miramax. So Miramax is legendary for just fucking things up left and right. I'm curious how early in Scholastic's run of movies and TV shows, because I feel like this was fairly early. Like, it's normal now. You remember when that became like a thing after Harry Potter broke big? All of a sudden, Scholastic was doing tons of movies trying to capture that kind of magic. But I feel like this had to have been...
Bridge to Terabithia and shit like that.
Yeah, and what's the Lemony Snicket and stuff like that, and Hoot. I'm gonna look them up right now because I feel like this had to have been really early on. But I mean, obviously, this shares a lot of similarities with My Bodyguard. But I don't think it's. I don't want to say it's inspired by, because its voice and the story it's trying to tell is different, especially tonally. I think.
Yes, definitely.
In Kieran Culkin's character Kevin, well, oddly enough named. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. Kevin Dillon. I heard that, and I wasn't sure I heard that.
I know,
right.
Isn't that weird?
That's fucking hilarious if you think about it. Is that he's more outgoing. He's the one that has a lot of lip. Now, mind you, Chris Makepeace's character has lip too, but he doesn't have the muscle to back it up. But you almost think that Freak has like this thing like, yeah, I know that I'm going to get my ass beat. I'm not sure I even care.
Exactly.
I wonder.
Doesn't care.
Now, did they know? They revealed that he's going to die soon. Wait, that's why I got the movies confused. Freak the Mighty takes place in Cincinnati. That's why I watched them literally back to back, and that must be where I got confused. So I bet you that My Bodyguard does take place in Chicago, and I just conflated the two.
Mm-hmm.
I used a big word, people. I never do. Someone had to tell me what conflated means, though.
Michael got confused.
Alright, let's see. Oh no, Scholastic made stuff way before us, like TV shows and stuff like that. Voyagers.
They probably made Max what's the motorcycle one? A Ralph.
Oh yeah, Runaway Ralph.
All those. And the motorcycle one. See, that's the thing is that, I don't know if people realize how many movies are based on books.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it's a lot more than you think.
Well, and I had been thinking about what happens when we're done with this show, and I've always thought, well, there was that other boom, late 90s, early 2000s of movies based on kids' books, and I thought that'd be interesting to go through and discuss some of those.
Yeah. Well, what I thought about that too for obvious reasons, but I thought it would be interesting to do maybe per episode only do one movie, but read the book and then watch the movie.
Oh God, yeah, I'm a slow reader, child.
But that's why there's a lot of children's books. You can start there because they're small.
Yeah, I guess. Well,
audiobooks are dope.
Oh, there you go. That's the cheat. I can listen to that while I walk or exercise.
That's not cheating. Listening to audiobooks is the same thing as reading, in my opinion. So
okay, works for me.
No shame in it.
That's the argument I make with, oh, you like superhero movies, but you think me reading comic books is stupid? What's the difference? It's a movie, it's just a book on a movie on page.
I know. Yours is better because you're actually putting some effort in.
Yeah.
Dickheads. Sorry.
So I think that this is a slightly better film, not because it's newer by any means, but I think Peter Chesham handles the difficult stuff, like the emotional stuff, with less sap, less whimsy. I think it's a little. I mean, the funny is, it's I say it's more grounded, but it's also a movie where he fantasizes about being, in the King Arthur times and stuff like that. But even that is handled like if a kid's active imagination would go overboard, this is how it would be. I think it's just handled really well.
I think that presenting in that perspective, having that fantasy element to it, helps balance the serious stuff so that neither one is over the top.
Yeah, the director
provides some kind of balance.
The director's really interesting. I would have guessed that he was Irish, especially based on the music that he uses.
Yes.
He's British, but if you look at his filmography, it's very strange. Did you look at this?
It is. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so it's 2 straight-up British films, Hear My Song and Funny Bones, then The Mighty, which is an American film, but then there's the legendary, I've never seen it, you might have seen it, is Town and Country, that epic disaster, one of the most expensive movies ever made to make fucking nothing. It's got like one of these massive...
Maybe, I don't know.
It's Warren Beatty, Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, and like a whole bunch of other people, and the movie tanked. It took 3 years to film. And then Serendipity was released right after that, and that was a hit. I get a little bit of the connection between The Mighty and Serendipity just because they're kind of like whimsical city tales or whatever. But then there's like Shall We Dance, Hannah Montana, and then Back to England for Hector and The Search for Happiness. He's a very eclectic director. I don't know if he's a gun for hire. He's a gun for hire, or he just looks for interesting films to make.
Space Between Us is kind of a rather unique film as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's like this kid, first human born on Mars. So this kid is born on Mars, but then ends up on Earth, and it's like also like it's like he's on another planet, but like the other way around. It's super weird.
Yeah, so he's a Martian, but he's earthly based. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep. That's very interesting.
We were just talking yesterday, Jacob and I, we had discussed Casino for a different episode, and it's kind of a turning point for Sharon Stone, and sadly a less financially successful one, because I think until Casino, she was a fucking terrible actress. I don't know what happened. I think Basic Instinct is shit. She's terrible in it. She's dead behind the eyes in The Specialist and Quick and the Dead and stuff like that. And there's a Magnum PI episode you gotta see that's fucking insane performance from her, and it's not in a good way, like not Nicolas Cage insane. And it's like spending that time with Martin Scorsese and getting the Golden Globe. I think she was even Oscar nominated for it. It opened something up for her. But then after that, it seems like everything that she was doing was not geared towards box office. It was geared towards more awards and critically acclaimed kind of stuff. But it didn't make any money, which...
For Golden Globes for this role.
I guess she got her big paydays for the stuff post Basic Instinct, and then she could go and do more artsy stuff. I just wish it had been more widely accepted, but I'm saying this at the same time, I haven't seen most of those movies, so I'm a hypocrite.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think she's really good in this. She's not the star. She's the name that helps sell the movie, but she's not the star.
No, but, she really does hold it all together well. She's kind of the glue, in a way. And she does have some really emotional scenes that, are pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah.
I thought that it it was a little bit of a quieter role for her.
Yeah, it's
but
not
with a lot more emotional depth.
Yeah, it's not going to the rafters trying to win awards. It's just a good performance that's worthy of awards. That's well, I mean, I also think everybody in this is great. I thought James Gandolfini was fucking terrifying.
Yes.
Harry Dean Stanton is just like, has he ever played a bad guy, or he's just too kind of unusual to be like sinister? And that's kind of what I love about him. He's just kind of like an old shoe you're comfortable wearing.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about him. I think, yeah, I'm just gonna say, yeah, agree with you.
And the only one I think is a little bit performance-y is Gillian Anderson. I think like the accent's just a little too cartoonish and stuff like that. But she was known for being kind of a stiff character on X-Files, so this gave her something else, like a little more lively to do.
Yeah, it seemed like she made a choice because she desperately wanted to try something different.
But let's talk about, I think, the performance that's. Even I've seen this movie a couple times before. It still just shocked me how good it was as Eldon Henson. I mean, fucking knock it out of the park.
I know. I think that he doesn't get a lot of respect because, well, I mean, he's playing that character for a reason. This big, dumb guy or whatever, and he started as a kid actor, and he had several movies under his belt before he did this.
Yeah, but I feel like this is kind of like a good showcase because he was part of Mighty Ducks, and that was mostly just an ensemble where he kind of just blended in. This is just like, I mean, I almost think his is almost the main character. I feel like he gets more.
He kind of is the main character. He's the one, writing the story, and he's the narrator. He's telling us this thing that happened to change his life.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was 20 when he filmed this. So that must mean he was. Well, no, I guess he was like 13 or 14 when he did Mighty Ducks. I guess that makes sense. But like Adam Baldwin was only 17 when he made My Bodyguard, so he was just like, oh wow, he's just giant at that age. And Eldon Henson, I thought, well, he's pretty big for a teenager. Oh no, he's technically an adult.
But still, he probably wasn't much bigger at 20 than he was in Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, he's just got. I think what helps is that he's got such a soft face, and he can pull off a lot younger.
Yeah, it's interesting. How much longer did he play a teenager? He was in She's All That the year after. Idle Hands, were they in high school?
It was Dumb and Dumber was the last time. I think he was 26 when he was in that.
Yeah, it was in 2001.
3.
Oh, I think the movie O was in 2001. I was just looking. Battle of Shaker Heights was 2003.
One of these days, I'm going to watch that movie. I feel like I might have watched it when it first came out, but I haven't seen it since, and I really want to rediscover that film.
Yeah, I think that same thing. I think he also narrates the audiobook of Freak the Mighty.
That's wonderful.
That kind of makes me feel something that I didn't know I could feel anymore.
I want to hear that now. Yeah. Well, of course.
And also,
go ahead.
I didn't know. It says that there's supposed to be a sequel called Max the Mighty.
Really? I mean, it's already out, or it's being made?
I'm not sure, because it says that he recorded the audiobook for that too.
Oh, okay.
But there's no information on IMDb. I'll have to look into it. I might revisit those books again, because they're just, the fact of the matter is that this, whether it's cheesy or not, I don't think it is. For the most part, it really seems sincere, because they're not trying to manipulate you. The role of Kevin is almost, yes, he does tell these lies to try to, I guess, save people's feelings, but ultimately he still kind of jokes about his mortality, and that he makes jokes about it, but yet he's serious too.
Yeah.
So I know it's really hard to do both of those things and do it well, especially when you're a kid actor. But I will tell you that, like, yes, I have not seen this movie for a long time, but I did watch it, I think, a fair amount, when it originally came out. But I will never not cry at this movie. And I think especially Eldon Henderson, when he really learns the truth at the end, and he is just devastated, and he's running and running and running, and he finds, the lab that is not at all what he said it was. And it's just a heartbreaking. It's just so moving.
The score at the end is next level epic. I think it's one of the most beautiful scores that nobody's really ever heard. I mean, you're talking like the level of like Magnificent Seven and Forrest Gump, those big sweeping scores that everybody should know. I think it's unbelievably good.
Was that all done by Sting, or was it just that main song?
Well, usually with that, it's just the song. I can look right now. Hold on a second. Let me.
I thought it was kind of interesting to have this sort of. To me, it felt sort of like Irish dance music.
Yeah, that's what threw me off, because I really thought the director was going to be Irish, but he's British. And apparently you'll get shot in the face if you confuse the two.
Yeah, you might, yeah.
It's done by Trevor Jones, not Sting.
What?
Trevor Jones did the score for this, and his big things were Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, The Last Mohicans, Excalibur. So he had.
I can see a connection there.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what his last thing was, because he's one of those names I know, but I couldn't really tell you. Oh, Time Bandits. That's another one of those big epic. So yeah, he got chosen for a reason.
Yeah, clearly.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's just, and really, I'm also really drawn to the whole, like, King Arthur, legend anyway. Like, there's a lot of stuff, like, I read a lot of those kinds of books.
Yeah.
That are, like, different takes on that tale or retellings or whatever. So that aspect of the story and, how they chose to present it through that lens about that, dealing with bullies and being heroic and
Little Stevie.
Guidelines that they were supposed to live by,
Yeah, did you see Little Stevie was in this?
Oh, hell yes, I saw that Little Stevie was in this. You do not forget Little Stevie.
He's such an interesting actor, and I wonder how they found him, because this is shot in Cincinnati. They must have just done a wide search for. I think he's from like Toronto, and that's not too far from Cincinnati. They must have gone up there, whatever, to find actors.
Yeah. So interesting. Little Stevie.
Hand down, Little Stevie!
Wait, I was like, Eldon Henderson has been in so many teen movies. Was he in that one too? No. That was one of the few he wasn't in.
Anything else you want to say before we go?
I don't know. Other than I think that it is interesting that I think both of them had, taken breaks in their career, and just in the last few years, they've both kind of, been working quite a lot. Eldon Henderson, especially with, like, Daredevil, the Daredevil show, and I think it's gonna start it. They're gonna not reboot it, because they're still gonna have Charlie Cox and some of the same actors and stuff. So I don't know if he's gonna be continuing his role.
He's not. They announced that he's not coming with them. Yeah,
that's too bad. But it was. I mean, I think it's really I delight in seeing, especially child actors, find their footing in adulthood.
Yeah.
and find their way back, or you know, with Kieran Culkin, I mean, did anyone think that he would be the one that would be, you know, getting so much acclaim right now?
From Succession, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just hosted Saturday Night Live like a month ago. It's just sort of weird.
Yeah, you know, that makes me think of the first movie, though, is that Chris Makepeace, you know, he had 2 big hits right in a row, Meatballs and My Bodyguard, and then he apparently he hated being away from home, and he's Canadian, so he would only accept Canadian productions, and that kind of slowed things down for him, because this is before, like, American productions were going up to Canada, really. So it was either small dramas or it was like exploitation films was their market back then. So none of those movies really hit. And I remember he did Vamp in Los Angeles, which was around 86, but by then it was kind of like he was just a forgotten name by that point. A great performance though. I don't know if you've ever seen Vamp. It's fucking great. And he did a few more movies, and he kind of faded away. He started doing, I think he went to college, and then he started becoming like assistant director on movies. And he did about 12 movies, and then that was it. He stopped around like 97, 98, and he hasn't done anything since.
Yeah, I think just for, you know, Kieran Culkin, he especially, I mean, very clearly started his acting career as like the younger brother of Macaulay Culkin. Like, there was no separation, really, you know? Right. And I'm not sure where the point became where he started, you know, stepping into his own thing, like She's All That, Cider House Rules time, maybe?
Yeah,
maybe
and then
like Altar Boys, Igby Goes Down. God, I still remember going to see that at the theater by myself. I mean, went through a phase where I was super into those more, like, art house, like, independent kind of movies. I still remember seeing that movie and then getting it on video and like watching it all the time. So he clearly, you know, finds his own footing at some point, but he didn't really act much between Igby Goes Down and Scott Pilgrim, you know, except for a couple things, and that's a big chunk of time.
Yeah, well, I remember we all were like, holy shit, why doesn't he act more? Because he was so fucking good in Scott Pilgrim. And then again, he just disappeared again for a while, so, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like their MO, though. Macaulay does that, and I think Rory has backed off some, because he started getting a whole bunch of work, but then it slowed down, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it just must be really difficult to be famous for almost your entire fucking life.
Yeah.
And to have those connections. But regardless, my point is that yay for them. I'm happy, you know, especially if it's, you know, they take time away and they come back to it more on their own terms.
Right, instead of, oh God, I'm broke, I need to do, like, you know, this kind of thing, whatever. And then maybe it's like lesser than what, maybe that's what Chris Makepeace did, because maybe he saw that he was involved in projects that just weren't what he wanted, and then said, you know what, I've made a lot of money, and I'll go do something else or something. I don't know what he's doing. I'm interested, like, where is Chris Makepeace now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is...
And report back.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
That is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And Mindy, you want to send us out?
No.
Okay, read more books, kids, and then watch the movies that are based on those books, and then judge them based on those books. I got nothing.
Sweet.
Bye.